All right. Well, we are. What happened here? Oh, okay. I've got an. We are live. This is the first episode of the Spin Cycle. R.C. Williams is over there. I'm Andrew Southwick. Some of you may know us from Culture Crossroads. Some of you may know him from Watchman Brief. But hey, this is a new program we're going to do, R.C. Daily, just a daily informal kind of rundown of what's going on. What are some of the headlines, and not even to come to specific conclusions, but to try to battle and push back against the narrative spin. Because RC,
Yeah.
as soon as anything happens, news anymore isn't about getting the truth out first. It's about establishing the dominant narrative first. You know, and then as soon as you can get that dominant narrative, now you own the news cycle,
Yeah.
and the narrative doesn't have to be true. You know.
A tangled web we weave, my friend. It is amazing to me. We did this a couple of weeks ago on Culture Crossroads. We gave people a look behind the scenes at what we talk about during the break. There's so much stuff that happens that never makes Culture Crossroads or even the Watchman Brief. It's nice to just be able to get on every day, give people a look at what's happening, help them to get some context around it, and then take questions on it. One of the things that we've done well, Andrew, historically, is answer questions in real time. And so I think the opportunity to do that on a daily basis for us is awesome. So I love it being informal. We don't have to worry about all the fancy stuff.
Yeah. Um, well, let's talk about really the big news coming over the weekend. Although I will say before we get to that, did you
Hmm.
see this morning? Sam Neill, Alan Grant from Jurassic Park, died, 78.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was sudden. He had a blood cancer, a lymphoma, but was apparently cancer free up to this morning, according to his family, the reports we have.
Huh.
But too bad. I mean, 78. He's certainly he had a good life, and certainly is embedded in pop culture and mythical culture in America. But Sam Neill, passed away just this morning. Did you hear that? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did catch that. And I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Man, that's kind of say he's a great actor. Yeah,
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 and much more than Jurassic Park, but that's what
yeah,
everybody will know him from. So okay, but the other death, Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, South Carolina, 71 years old, goes to Ukraine, is on the tarmac being interviewed about he's going to go back to the States and meet with this person and that person, and he's got plans. Apparently, has a phone conversation with President Trump, who was on some of the news programs talking about his conversation that it's all about pass the Save Act. Okay, I'm not gonna. There's no hello, is this the news? Hey, Billy, how you doing? A little bit. We're breaking down headlines, but just not trying to do the narrative stuff. Just what's
yeah.
the truth of what's going on. So we're starting with Lindsey Graham, and there's a ton of conspiracy theories that Ukraine poisoned him, or that there's always, well, it must have been the Jews, or it must have been this, that, or the other, or it was Russia that poisoned him. I mean, I've seen so many cockamamie things. From what I can tell, and again, you can even say, well, um, okay, the official medical reports, they're conspiracy too. Apparently, he had an aortic dissection, which is a tear in your aorta. It carries your blood and oxygen to your heart. When that tear, hey, Mr. Chaos, we're talking about Lindsey Graham and how he actually died, or at least what we can confirm. But hey, thanks for checking us out.
Yeah.
An aortic tear, an aortic dissection. So the vessel that carries the blood and oxygen to your heart, that had, thanks, Billy. Thanks for the sub. Thanks for the like. We hope to see you. We're going to do this every day. I'm not sure what time every day, but we'll go live every day so you can at least check it out live
Yes,
or on
sir.
demand. Um, oh, my phone's going off. Here we go. Anyway, aortic dissection, which is the part I can't get past. I just keep repeating that phrase.
Hmm.
Um, the vessel that carries the blood and oxygen to your heart, that had a tear in it, and actually it could have had a tear even weeks ahead, because he said he was complaining of feeling tired, so on and so forth. Thanks, Billy. We like you too. And Billy says he trusts us more than CNN and NBC.
That was worth putting the
I would
glasses
trust.
on for.
I don't want to, and RC, I don't want to, like, disparage us, but I trust a can of Sprite more than CNN and MSNBC.
And
You know,
rightly so, sir. Yes.
But anyway, so that's what's going to happen is you're not getting blood and oxygen to your heart. You're not getting blood and oxygen to your brain. And it can happen very quickly. And so, in fact, the actor John Ritter died from this same thing when he was filming Eight Simple Rules.
Mm-hmm.
John, most people, well, if you're old like me, you'll remember him from Three's Company, but and he was in Sling Blade, a few other things. But anyway, he passed away from the same thing. He thought he was just getting ill when in fact he had a tear in his aorta, and that effectively you bleed out inside and you die quickly. So I'm not going to that. Not only is that a satisfactory answer, it makes sense. RC, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I was just looking, Andrew, at the process for replacement in South Carolina. I'll come to that in a second.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, we know the aortic tears. We were talking about this last night, Andrew. Those things are often misdiagnosed or missed completely. It's just like somebody thinks you're sick and you exhibit all the symptoms of having the flu, I guess, or something similar to that. Uh, Headache, tiredness, fever, all of these things that you would normally have, and you don't realize what's going on. So, Lindsey Graham, I mean, he wasn't a spring chicken, but he wasn't a fossil per se. How long had this thing been going on? Traveling like that, various stress. I mean, it's pretty set to do that, which is why when you have heart issues or things like that, one of the things they don't want you to do is fly because it creates other issues. So it was probably, I think, a matter of timing. And I know that with the conspiracy theories, people are after Lindsey Graham for whatever he did or didn't do. And my take on this is like, look, um, if you want to make a determination on the guy, just look at what he said and did. We all have our opinions. Fact remains, guy had a tear in his aorta. That'll kill you if it doesn't get treated, and it happened, right? So that's part one. Part two, Lindsey Graham's track record is out there for everybody. He's been in the Senate forever, or he was in the Senate forever. Some things got done, some things didn't. He had some strong opinions that were loosely held, like any good long-term politician. But Andrew, my thought on that is that I think people need to look forward, right? Because as we're dealing with this, we're also dealing with the Mitch McConnell situation, which apparently there was a picture released yesterday of him and Elaine Chao, who is his wife, former transportation secretary in Trump's first administration. We're uncertain about his health as well, because now there's some information out about that picture when it was taken and stuff like that. What I would say to people is, look, you can have your commentary on Lindsey Graham. What you should be more focused on is the process of how he's going to be replaced and ultimately what that means. So each state, when it comes to replacing a senator, has different sets of rules. Hallelujah for states' rights. In Florida, when Trump's term started, when he chose Marco Rubio to be Secretary of State, Rubio was a senator from the state of Florida, so he had to vacate, obviously. In the state of Florida, the governor chooses and appoints a replacement for the senator until the next election. Now, that choice was Ashley Moody, and now she's up for election officially here in the state in November to serve a full 6-year term. In South Carolina, the primary voters actually get to choose what's going to happen there, and there are various windows. I was just trying to get as much of the detail as I could here, so let me take a double check here just to make sure. So let's see. Under South Carolina law, Henry McMaster, who's the governor of the state, will quickly choose an interim appointee to serve out the Graham term that ends in January. But the real successor is going to be made by the people, right? So now there's an election cycle going on. Lindsey Graham was going to run again, so now the Republicans have to decide. There's going to be a snap election. They've got to get that done in a tight time window because that seat is going to need to be filled. So in the interim, McMaster's going to make a decision based on the fact of who he is. We know that's going to be a conservative or Republican of some kind. But for those who don't realize it, in South Carolina, we happen to be in Charleston over the Memorial Day weekend. There was a lot of nasty mudslinging and advertising going on. Mark Lynch was Lindsey Graham's primary competitor in that race, and there was some real nasty back and forth on them. The logic here is that he's going to pick up again Nancy Mace. My understanding is she's also thrown her hat in the ring. So we need to look closely at how that's going to shake out for November. And interestingly, who is McMaster going to choose to step into that role? And the reason that I shared that, Andrew, is I think that we get distracted or lost in the sauce on a lot of this stuff when we need to be paying attention to process. And a quick sidebar on that, one of our recent pieces on Rip from the Headlines was around the 17th Amendment and the reasons that it needed to be repealed. So the way that that works now is you elect your state senators by popular vote. That has not always been the case. The framers of the Constitution did not intend for that to be the case. Originally, you voted for your House representative to go to Washington, the House of Representatives, the People's House. Senators were appointed by state legislatures, and they could be called back at any time. The logic being is that the states would have a reign and control over the federal apparatus, and there would be balance of power in states' rights. Now, people have said to me, well, if that's the case, then I can't control my senator. Actually, you can. Prior to the 17th Amendment, you actually had more control over that process because you elected your state representative to go to your state capital, and that person is responsible for appointing your senator. Now that we've lost that, each state kind of has its own rules, but you see how you get removed from the process here, right? Where Governor McMaster can make an appointment, and that's fine because that's the way the rules stand now. But I think we get lost in the sauce. Lindsey Graham is dead. I liked him. I didn't like him, whatever. What happens next, or next man up, which actually, Andrew, dovetails into part of the conversation we had last night on the extension, this extended conversation, is we have a lingering problem with age at various levels of government. Nothing against people who are more well seasoned, but the fact remains that throughout the different branches of government, the average age is like 805. Okay, respectfully. And the reins of power have been held so tightly, Andrew, that my concern is that we've disenfranchised the best and the brightest of our generation. We're both Gen Xers, and also the generations that come after us, from even wanting to engage in public service, because one, they see how nasty it is, but two, they know if they do, they're going to be told, wait their turn and do all of these things. And so my concern, Andrew, is we see another person who is more well seasoned, out of the game. Is the person that should be the next senator from the state of South Carolina so disenfranchised to even engage in the process that we never get an opportunity to see them shine and serve the people of the state because of the standard we've set up, and a generation of people who not only refuse to let go of power, but are also very partial in how they quote unquote mentor the next generation?
Well, okay, so yeah, that's our next conversation here. I do want to add one note to the Lindsey Graham conversation, and then we'll switch topics. A couple hours ago, this is being reported by every outlet. President Trump endorsed Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Nordon, or Nordon, I'm not sure how to say her last name. Apparently, he said that Governor McMaster should appoint Lindsey Graham's sister to the vacant seat. Now, does that go as far as endorse for an actual election? Probably just appoint as an interim, but anyway. So, and it's amazing how quickly the scramble for power happens.
Never fails.
Should we, with AI Lindsay? Should we replace with the AI Lindsay? We can train Grok to do with a Commodore 64. Wow,
something might actually get done if you do that, Billy.
Billy Elliott is spitting fire today. All right, thank you for being there. All right, okay, I'll fix the banner in just a second, but we'll move on to the second part of this. You mentioned the age of a lot of our representatives. That's true. One of the things that's happened, and I think this is also a part to do with the Republicans, because the Republicans seem to know and never run out of ways to screw their own base. You vote for them to go into office to do X, Y, or Z. They end up advancing an agenda completely opposite or different. At the same time, there is a rise of socialism and socialist candidates in America. Yeah. And there's a huge and it's not just, listen to this. The most comprehensive available list that I could find. 67 current DSA members are endorsees in state level office. 14 state senators are unicameral legislators, and 51 lower house legislators along with two other statewide officials. Now, some of those, so I mean, we got a couple hundred socialists elected to state and federal office that are either endorsed by socialist parties or self-proclaimed socialists. And then when you come to, and I should probably publish the whole list. I've got them in many, many states. But then when you come to who's up for the 26th election, federal candidates who have won or who have won their primaries. You've got AOC, obviously, in New York 14, Rashida Tlaib, Michigan 12, Claire Valdez, New York 7, Daraliza Avila Chevalier, New York 13, Chris Rabb, Pennsylvania 3, Mila Quiros, Colorado 1st, Corey Bush, Missouri 1st, Oliver Larkin out of Florida, our home state, you and I. And it goes on from there. What's to explain the rise in socialism? You would. There was a time when we were ferreting out socialists and communists. I mean, socialism is another word for communism. So is Marxism. It's all the same thing. State-run everything. But I think one of the things that factors into that is this: we've become so geriatric in our leadership that, and we've gotten so used to being backstabbed and screwed by the people we vote for, and we have not at the same time really effectively taught what socialism actually does, and the fact that there's never been a country that's done it well. So we believe the canard that, well, they were just doing it wrong, this time we'll do it better, says Bernie Sanders. That now all of a sudden, and you've got grocery prices, they're not going down, inflation is stubborn, gas is still going high, we've got a war that's not a war, that's on, that's off, that's on, that's off, all these kinds of things happening right now, and people are feeling it clearly in their pocketbooks. There's way too much month left at the end of money for most people, or for many people, I should say. And so now you get to particularly younger generations. It seems like the socialist candidates coming off the street, the Mamdanis and such, that that sounds good. We'll try that. It seems like the alternative. It seems like the insurgent third party. Now, clearly, the vast and wide majority of the socialists are coming in through the Democrat Party. My take on that is that those socialists are taking over the Democrat Party. Meanwhile, it's the technocrats and transhumanists that are taking over the Republican Party and buying them, and that's their donor class. But nonetheless, we have this rise in socialist candidates. That to me is a concern because it is absolutely antithetical to what our country was built on.
100%, Andrew. So let's do the breakdown. History rhymes, doesn't always repeat, but it most certainly rhymes. If people go back 100 years in U.S. history, you will see we were dealing with very much the same thing at that point. With the technology of the time, the Democratic Socialists of America, or the communists, were highly organized, well structured, and it just so happened that the leaders of that movement were all kids of rich barons, right, who had more money and time than they knew what to do with, and these ideas to them made sense and gave them some semblance of power. I mean, Eugene Debs was a legitimate contender, I guess as best we could tell, for president before and after he went to prison for doing stuff he wasn't supposed to be doing. But here we are again, Andrew, and to your point about how this happens, I mean, two problems. One, we've got the geriatric Olympics going on. That's one, right? So when people don't see upward mobility or the opportunity to do something like that, they do become disenfranchised. When you compound that with the malfeasance and general mismanagement of just about everything related to government or economy, you're going to tick people off. And then you take the part three, where then when they go to the people that they should redress their grievances to, those people duly ignore them or minimize them. Ultimately, what you're going to end up with is something like socialism looking popular to a younger generation, because they get to the point where they just want things to change, and they'll take whatever they can get to get that ball moving. That in and of itself is obviously dangerous. The irrational exuberance factor plays in here. But Andrew, these symptoms, I mean, Juliana and I know you too, what we do with Watchman Action, one of the things that we work to do is have open lines of communication with the younger generation, train them and encourage them and say, listen, the standards and ideals that the founders put together make sense. They do work. The challenge is our generation and those before us have done you a huge disservice. One, by not including you in the process, but two, our governance has been horrible. And don't let that be the thing that takes you down a road with something that you're simply not going to like you said at the end. What country has ever done socialism or communism well? That would be absolutely zero. And so we're trying to cut that off at the pass, Andrew. But I think what it really boils down to is, how did we get here? When the church, the ecclesia, abdicates its role of leadership in the culture, as we have for multiple decades, decay is going to creep up, and the culture is going to dictate terms to us. We're supposed to be setting the tempo and the temperature, and instead we react to it, which is how we end up here. And my concern on this, Andrew, is these groups, DSA is going to start to get a foothold, and they're going to keep spewing that drivel to the point where it's going to be so attractive that you hit a tipping point, and or you end up with populist situations. Here in the state of Florida, our governor's race is pretty contentious on the Republican side, and you have someone like James Fishback, who is a young guy who is running on a populist message, and what he's managed to do is aggregate such a large block of young voters, conservatives, but also MPAs and even some Democrats. He's gotten them to coalesce around a message that you've been left behind. I won't do that to you. I'll be your voice. Roll with me. And when we've talked to people about it, who are more seasoned or supposedly understand politics, they say to us, oh, well, he's a non-factor, doesn't matter. And it's like, you have no idea what's going on here. And when the boomerang hits you in the head, it's going to knock you out. You have no idea where these young people are because you're not even listening to them. When they make their voice heard, this becomes inherently dangerous if they're misguided. And so I think these are serious things that we have to consider in what we're going to do so that we can stop this stuff. So I'll tell you, it ain't good.
Do you think that the socialist insurgents, the communist insurgents happening, do you think that's a proxy for a third party, really? As in, like, people are we're tired of playing the two party game. We know that that's rigged. It's a uniparty. We don't trust our election system anyway. So, and unfortunately, on the conservative side, we're not letting in people with new ideas into our party.
Right.
The Democrats are, so for whatever reason. So now the socialist seems like, an alternative to the system, even though it's really ingratiating itself to the system.
Andrew, people think that a legitimate third party option or even a strong independent is out of the realm of possibility. We live in a two-party system. We've been through a number of party cycles or evolutions throughout the history of the country. And what I always point people back to is, before you jump off and say that, I'll remind you that we had a couple of Whigs who actually made it to the White House, right? So the Whig Party rose because of the same frustrations, amongst others, that we have now. And people said, oh, there's no way it can happen. It's either this or it's this. What you saw them do is start winning local races. They build a foothold and a stronghold. Then they get into some state houses and state senates, long shots, but then somebody pulls off a victory, which inspires others. And they say, look, let's go for some national offices here. And before you know it, Andrew, the money comes behind them, popular sentiment turns their way, something major happens that allows this door to open. And before you know it, you've got a legitimate contender. Now, on the research side with Sherlock, we have long said that you are probably looking at your last true two-party cycle in the history of the country. Going forward, people are so fed up with both sides of this that they're doing their own things, or they're splintering or factioning off. I think if you get a candidate that has the resources and enough charisma, they could legitimately foster a third party that would make sense, or they could run as an independent and maybe they win a governor's race or a Senate race, and then they position themselves and others to come behind them, where, when you get to, 2032 or whatever, we're realistically looking at that.
Well, it's not unheard of. I mean, if you remember back in the day, Minnesota elected Jesse Ventura as an independent, which was a true independent insurgent into the gubernatorial race there in Minnesota. So it can happen. All right, we got a few minutes left. I want to do something. I don't know what I'm going to call this segment. I'd like to think I had some kind of nice name for it, but I don't. So we'll just call it, I don't know, free for all. I would spin a wheel, but it's not a wheel.
The free for all.
What's that? Yeah, all right. So All right, so these are some of the latest headlines that are coming up right now, or that have come through the wire over the past couple of hours. We talked about. Here's Mitch McConnell's replacement might be chosen in court from conservative review. Is there any other last minute note you want to add before we wrap up? And by the way, friends who are checking us out, thank you for spending some time with us here on this debut episode of the Spin Cycle. We will be live every day. I don't know what time we're going to be live tomorrow. Eventually, we will get a regular time, but we're starting in this right now in the middle of our own chaos is going on. So, but we will get live episodes every day, Monday through Friday. And we'll tell you in a little bit where you can find our other information as well, and other YouTube pages and things, so that you can subscribe to those as well. But for now, last minute free for all news. Anything we want to add? Oh, here's a good one. Meta unveils one of the largest AI data centers ever in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Dramatically expanding its AI data center campus in rural Louisiana, creating what the company says will be one of the largest data centers ever built. Data centers are another area where there actually is bipartisan um, electorate support against them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Andrew, real quick on that one. I think the challenge, because we have the same in Florida, this is part of the contention in the governor's race, is the thing that we can't get a clear answer on about data centers is with the questions that people have, we just can't seem to get clear answers on how that's going to work. Now, I have some ideas on how they would make it work, but my question is always the same. Why can't you guys just come out and explain to people how it's going to work? Because if you calm their fears and they're like, well, okay, if that's what's going to happen, that doesn't sound as bad as what I've heard. But for some reason, they just refuse to do that. And we're doing this live so people can correct me if I'm wrong or point me to a source. I have yet to find one where that's a legitimate case. And by all accounts, what we're seeing with data centers that exist today in states around the country is causing a high level of pain for the people who live around them. I don't think we've spent enough time asking enough questions and holding the right people accountable to make sure these things, if they're going to roll out in an orderly manner. So that's an important one, Andrew. The other thing I would encourage people to do is anytime we have situations like this, a senator dies, another one, we don't know what the situation is. When you start to see these stories and things pop up, always pay attention to the secondary stories coming behind it. One of the things that was on your screen was oil prices. We are back in conflict again with Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz is apparently closed. Um, Anytime that those things happen, you can expect a cascading effect where things are going to get more expensive for you, and it's a rolling basis, right? We are also in that vein critically low on our oil reserves. Our strategic oil reserve is low. The logic is that we should have enough of our own oil. Not sure what's happening with that, but I'd encourage people to pay attention to economic indicators as to what's going on, and to be very conscious of what's happening around them and how that could affect their everyday life.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it here. Well, I want to let everybody know. So obviously, if you're watching the Spin Cycle, you're finding us on one of our channels, whether it's our personal Facebook pages, which we're doing as well, but also check out the Culture Crossroads. A couple places on Facebook you can find that at Andrew Southwick Official on Facebook, Andrew Southwick Official, or the Culture Crossroads with Andrew Southwick on Facebook as well. Find that, like the page, subscribe. We appreciate that. On YouTube, Culture Crossroads 316 at Culture Crossroads 316. Again, subscribe to the page there. We want to beat the algorithms at their own game. Let them know this is actually the kind of just just honestly what's happening and what we can do about it. Hopefully for the affirmative for as many people as possible. On X, CC Podcast 2023, CC Podcast 2023, and RC Williams, I'm going to let you tell people where they can find your information.
Yeah, all things are at watchmanaction.org. If you're looking for us on any social media platform, the handle's the same for all of them. It's at Watchman Action or that variation. We encourage you guys to check out everything. If you go to watchmanaction.org, you can get to both newsletters, ripped from the headlines, slices and dices the news, kind of like we do here on the Spin Cycle. And We Are the Watchman Weekly equips the church to engage the culture by connecting the dots between current events and scripture. Both of our latest editions are up at watchmanaction.org. You can also get more information on the forthcoming Watchmen Action 24/7 network, where the Spin Cycle, amongst other shows, will have a home. So start there, watchmenaction.org. That's plural. Watch, MEN, action.org.
All right, and then I see. What time are we on tomorrow? Do you know?
I don't. It may be 12:45 again. I think that's
Check
what
because
we.
I know you're on location. So let's see what time we're coming back.
Yeah, I think it's 12:45 tomorrow. But we'll let people know. That's the good news. We do it live, and you see us pop on. And then if you can't catch us when and then you can catch us whenever and just time shift us.
All right. Well, we'll aim for 12:45 p.m. That is Eastern time. 12:45 Eastern time tomorrow. Until then, take care. We'll see you.
Bye, guys.